Hello and welcome to a special pre-budget edition of Money Talks with me, George Pitcher, and welcoming Edmund Shing as ever from BCS Asset Management and the Idle Investor website. Welcome.
Thank you,
Ed.
George.
So, Ed, what are we expecting in the budget? A major giveaway from Chancellor Osborne?
I think Gorgeous George would love to do that. A classic pre-election
That's me,
gimmick.
Ed.
Sorry,
Gorgeous.
of course, that's your Gorgeous George. Sorry, the other Gorgeous George
Oh,
then.
right.
I think he'd love to. There is one fly in the ointment called the Liberal Democratic Party,
yeah,
who will not allow that to happen. They are the coalition partners
yeah.
for the time being, for at least another couple of months. So they definitely would put the block in it.
They're quite keen on raising the threshold of income tax,
exactly.
aren't they, the Lib Dems? So
they
they
will.
agree in some areas.
I think that'll happen.
Yeah.
I think raising the personal allowance threshold from the current 10,000 maybe to 11 or 12,000 is going to be one of the easiest measures to agree because, as you say, the Lib Dems and the Conservatives can agree on that. However, other stuff like raising inheritance tax thresholds, particularly exempting primary houses, could be a tricky one.
Those are the big headline ones, aren't there? I never think raising the basic threshold is much of a vote winner, is it?
But if you look at people who are earning around the 10 or 11 or 12,000 range, maybe working not just full-time but part-time, it's a huge deal because it lifts them out of the income tax band altogether and they don't pay any income tax. That is a difference. And this would continue, of course, the progression of the personal allowance that we've seen over the last few years through this current government. So that, I think, actually could gain them some votes. But I think really the vote winners will be very much targeted on the wealthy middle class. That's for sure.
Right. Now, this inheritance tax break of the threshold becoming £1 million, that's not actually part of the budget, as I understand it, but it's obviously around the budget and it's pre-election. So let's take that as well. Didn't George Osborne promise this years ago at a Conservative Party conference? I seem to remember him standing up saying, we're going to raise the threshold for inheritance tax to £1 million, and everybody cheered. Why is it taking so long?
Why is it taking so long? Because they're in a coalition government and obviously Liberal Democrats are not keen on that idea. I'm actually against it. I don't see why, because let's face it, an inheritance tax is a death tax. Why should we exempt people from a death tax? I actually think it's quite good because the people getting taxed are those who are dead and therefore can't vote or care about it anymore. No, I mean seriously, why not tax that? Why tax other things like flights and petrol? I would rather they tax people's estates, particularly large estates, because don't forget, George, estates up to £325,000 are already exempt. And there are already exemptions between husbands and wives. So if one dies, the surviving spouse can take on the
And there's a bit of an inconsistency there on property with capital gains tax anyway.
Well, this is it. I'd go the other way, George. I'd rather say, you know what, George, you live in a fantastic house out in the home county somewhere. I won't give the address away. Now, the point is, why should you be exempt on that if you decide to sell it just because you happen to live in it? Why? I don't get it. And I think
you're saying I should die in it.
No, George. What I am saying, however, is you should perhaps be taxed on if you decide to sell it, even if you downsize, because after all, you will have made a packet on it. Right? Now, if I make a packet on stocks and shares, I have to pay capital gains tax. You make a packet on your primary residence, your house, and you get away with it, scot-free. Why?
Is that a sort of conservative dog whistle thing to the very wealthy people in the country then? The opposite of a mansion tax, if you like.
It is, but George, there aren't that many people in the UK that are that wealthy who vote. Remember, a lot of the very wealthy people in this country are actually non-doms, foreigners. They don't have a vote, or even if they did, don't really care, don't represent a large voting mass. The large voting mass for the Conservatives is very much I would say, the silver surfers, the 50-somethings. They are the target audience here. And they've actually lost a lot of votes to UKIP in this particular segment, and I think they'll use the budget and the manifesto for the election to try to win those people back.
I see, but presumably the pensions side of things is going to get some attention in this budget, isn't it?
Well, I think so, because remember, George, Pension Freedom Day is the 6th of April. This is already in law. This is already going to happen, but I think there will be further tweaking the edges for instance, to allow existing pensioners who have already been forced into annuities under the old regulations to perhaps escape that and sell their annuities and again benefit from these pension freedom as well. That could be another element of the budget.
Right. Okay. And finally, Ed, this is one of the most uncertain elections that we're approaching ever. So whatever promises we get in the budget, they could only last, couldn't they, for a month or so?
Absolutely, that's the problem. And in many ways, this is more of a pre-election manifesto than actually something you can hang your hat on. Because as you say, an incoming government could unwind all of it anyway.
Yes.
So really. It's much more about a manifesto. It's much more about the Conservatives trying to pull away from Labour, which they are struggling to do at the moment.
Thank you for your predictions in advance for the budget, and thank you for watching this special pre-budget, pre-election indeed, edition of Money Talks. On top of the budget itself, straight after, we'll have our chief economics commentator, William Keegan, here in the studio, giving us his reaction to the budget. But in the meantime, Ed, we'll look forward to very much to what you make of it in your column in IB Times UK. And thank you for watching.